What? Rian Johnson? He ruined my childhood.
You think
he
Ryan Johnson should have
everything I love about Star Wars. I can't even.
What the fuck did you fucking say about me?
Ryan destroyed everything. It's bullshit.
Guys, shut up! Rian Johnson said my.
Shut up. Look, I get it. The Last Jedi's not popular with everyone, but just listen. It's just a YouTube video. Just listen.
When it comes down to it, the sequel trilogy is a set of 3 okay films, varying in quality. And I'm not going to talk about The Last Jedi's quality, because that's not what this video is about. The main focus of this video is The Rise of Skywalker, as it's the most recent film, and it's the one that has been on my mind. But the fact that these 3 films are okay films somehow contributes to a trilogy that is deeply flawed. If you watch one of these movies on their own, they're not half bad. But if you watch the trilogy as a whole, it's easily the worst of the 3 Star Wars trilogies. So why is this? How can 3 good quality films contribute to 1 bad trilogy? Main reason? Synergy. If you watch these 3 films back to back, you're going to get such an amount of tonal and story whiplash because it just gets whipped around and basically completely destroyed. When we look at the prequels, they form a good trilogy. Those films individually are very flawed in so many ways, but together they make one story. If you watch them back to back, they make sense, they flow, and that's because they had the one vision of George Lucas. The original trilogy had the same issue of having different directors for each film, but they also had that vision of George Lucas guiding them through. Now, I'm certainly not saying that the only way that this trilogy could have succeeded is if specifically George Lucas was watching over it, but they needed someone. In the end, each of the 3 directors were given free rein to do whatever they wanted. When it came to the sequel trilogy, they didn't have a plan. To be fair, neither did the original trilogy, and I think that's probably the reason that they did it. But this was an awful decision for Disney, because they had an opportunity to plan out the at least rough story of this trilogy, and they chose not to. But specifically, let's get onto the subject that I'm sure most people have already disliked and left an angry comment and left about, and that's that I think Rian Johnson should have directed Episode 9. J.J. Abrams started the trilogy with Episode 7. Rian Johnson then built on those ideas, but went a different direction, but in a way that was his right. When he's doing Episode 8, he has a choice, he has a crossroads, where he gets to choose the direction he takes the story, and so he picked a path and he went down it. But it's clear that if J.J. Abrams was doing Episode 8, he would have chosen another path. But when he came to do Episode 9, he pretended as if he did choose that path, and continued the story from a point that never existed. This gives the whole trilogy an awful synergy, because suddenly it feels like Episode 7 happened, and then Episode 8 doesn't exist. Instead, we have an imaginary JJ Episode 8, and then Episode 9 happens, trying to undo as much of Rian Johnson's Episode 8 to pretend that it went down JJ's crossroad, instead of just building on Rian's ideas. Another point to add to this is that the original plan wasn't for JJ to direct Episode 9. Originally, Colin Trevorrow was going to do it, but for creative differences, aka he got fired, J.J. Abrams then had to step in. To be fair to JJ, he had forgotten about this project, so he'd finished Episode 7 and then he'd left it behind. He became an audience member. So if he didn't like Episode 8, then he wasn't thinking about how he would build on that story. At the time that JJ got stepped in as well, he had to basically start and finish the script within a couple weeks as soon as he got hired, because they were about to start filming and he basically had to. Instead of pushing the release of The Rise of Skywalker back, they basically rushed the script. And it's clear that JJ didn't like The Last Jedi. He must have felt that he had to try and cram his story that he would have planned from Episode 7 leading into his version of Episode 8 to make that Episode 9. And this is the big decision I think Disney made wrong. I think instead of trying to get someone who didn't understand Episode 8 because he didn't work on Episode 8, they should have brought in the one person who knows Episode 8 the best, being Rian Johnson. Regardless of your stance of The Last Jedi, this makes the most sense. If Rian Johnson just finished doing Episode 8, then Episode 9 would seem right to him. He would be able to build directly on how he did Episode 8. There's a good chance that he was approached to do Episode 9, and there's a good chance he declined because he was fatigued from doing Episode 8. They basically just finished 8 when they were about to start 9, so there's a good chance that he didn't want anything to do with it. But if they approached JJ first, then I see this as such a massive oversight. I think selfishly, I also wish Rian Johnson did direct Episode 9 because I love Rian Johnson. I think he's an absolutely fantastic director, and I feel that Episode 8 was basically perfect. He treated styles like art, and to see a finale of the entire saga in that same artistic style would have been probably the greatest thing I could have ever wished for from Episode 9. But I understand that half of you agree with me and half of you don't at the moment, because that's just the way Star Wars is right now, so obviously that subjective view doesn't add to my argument as much, that's more of an opinion. But I think it would have made the most logical sense either way, for Rian Johnson to continue his story instead of bring someone else in who had no plans of being part of the project, had no stakes in the later parts of the project, and had no understanding of the later parts of the project, to pick up from a point where he never left off. But I wouldn't be making this video if I didn't want to hear what you have to say, so please do tell me in the comments what you think about this. If you like The Last Jedi or not, just leave it all under there, it's a pleasure to read. If you want to talk to me as well, do tweet me out on Twitter, it's at TomJedi9. I really have been enjoying Twitter, but I haven't got many followers, so it'd be nice to just, interact with more of you guys over there as well as in the comments. If you enjoyed this video and want to see some more videos from me, then hit that subscribe button. I make a whole range of content. There's a bunch of diversity in the types of content I make. If you enjoyed this video as well, please leave a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.